Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. It is a pleasure to be with you on a Ballsmic Wednesday. I'm Jeff, that's Tom. We're online. ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming free. Always don't miss anything, but if you do, go back, get caught up at your leisure. We'll post it to Apple Podcast. For those of you who are so inclined and enjoy the product, enjoy the show, we appreciate your listenership and those 5 stars you give us. Please continue to do so. Helps others find the show, or so I'm told. You can email the program if you like. It's jcs@979espnradio.com. On Twitter, it's at jcameronshow. Itchy nose to start the show. That's not good. WTSM app occasionally works. Hello, YouTubers. Appreciate you. It's going to be interesting and a lot of fun because in about 15, 17 minutes from right now, Trey Jones, head golf coach, Florida State University, he's at Winged Foot with one of our own, Johnny Pack, former Walker Cupper and All-American, preseason, everything under the sun. Johnny Pack plays here at Florida State. Florida State golf not currently being played, sadly, but Johnny Pack got the invite to play, qualified to play, has earned his right to play in the U.S. Open. So he's there at Winged Foot, one of the most storied golf courses in all the land, and difficult. Trey's going to call us live from Winged Foot, where this morning I got one of the coolest FaceTimes I've ever received, bright and early. Johnny Pack practiced this morning at 7 a.m., and I got to walk the course for a couple of holes with him via FaceTime with Trey, and the player that they were trailing with the practice schedule was one Tiger Woods. That was cool. That was something to behold. Trey will join us in about 15 minutes. First, FSU football. Let's begin there. I think it's interesting to hear Mike Norvell talking about his quarterback segment group. I think it's interesting to hear Coach Atkins talking about the offensive line. I think it's fascinating to watch the timeline play out now as we enter a bye week, knowing that Miami's on the horizon and there is so very little hope amongst the fan base that there is anything positive that will come from this year. And yet, in stark contrast, I think you're hearing the idea that there is a chance for real growth during a season that is, in essence, a lost season. And I'm not going to, blow sunshine up your skirt there. I'm going to tell you that it's going to be a tough year. When it comes to wins and losses, it's going to be a real tough year. But in a year like that, when you don't really have anything to lose, it's year zero, if you will, because you didn't even get spring and you didn't get 7-on-7 during the summer. You didn't get all the things you're ordinarily allowed to do and put together. You've got to find growth in season. And you got to find growth from players who haven't been beaten down mentally and physically from years of futility. You got to find guys that are going to be part of the solution. And I think we're in the midst of watching this play out. Now, it's not ideal. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it is. It's awfully difficult to watch your team, my team, Tom's team lose every freaking week, right? And they're about to do a whole lot of that. But if you think that you're finding the solution to what ails you over the course of those losses over a season that doesn't really matter anyhow because they weren't going to win the ACC, they weren't going to vie for a conference championship or a college football playoff, they weren't going to do anything special this season anyhow, well, I can bear that. You got to give me the light, the proverbial light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's what this is going to be about. Now, I'd like to sprinkle in some surprises in the way of victories as well. It'd be awfully nice for, say, example, that you knock off Miami, that you make a giant leap between what we saw Saturday and what we're going to see on the 26th. Unlikely, true. Okay, maybe we skip ahead by a couple of weeks. Maybe it's the Notre Dame game we stun the world with everybody watching. Maybe it's the North Carolina or Louisville game. I don't know, but you got to see progress and you got to see solutions. You got to see people that are going to be here to help you. Steven Dix Jr., Amari Gaynor, and people like that who did stand out to me on Saturday as explosive players. One of the things, Tom, you and I have not talked about because we got caught up in so many other things that went freaking wrong and that looked bad and gave us pause was that I don't know if it was the delay. I don't know, sort of the stop-start nature of all this. First of all, you got a delay before kickoff. Then you got a delay after you're up and you've driven and you've had the emotions of the game strike you and all of that. I don't know. But, boy, we don't look particularly fast. We don't look like a quick team. We don't look like an explosive team in areas that I thought we might. So that's why Amari Gaynor stood out, didn't he? because he's a good-looking football player who's explosive. Steven Dix Jr. looked like he's a guy that could be explosive, right? We saw a few people like that, but not enough.
Yeah, Travis Jay as well in special teams. And, man, if you could find a position for him in all phases, all three phases, I'd take it. Because Josh Storms and Travis Jay have been doing some work together.
Yeah, he's put together much differently than he has been in the past. That is true.
I'd say the most explosive we looked in any phase of the game was in sudden change for defense. And it's because we dialed up pressures. And they were brought from all angles, and guys triggered and got downhill. And they did so quickly, and they made plays in the backfield, splash plays. Now, a Gainer was front and center on a lot of those,
ideally,
but he wasn't alone.
No.
He wasn't alone. There was that mentality, and the switch was flipped. I think, honestly, they'd schemed for something more conservative in this game, figuring that a freshman starting on the road would not do what Sims did, which is make a lot of good decisions to dink and dunk and be patient. Now, he did make a couple of critical errors, but on the whole, you would say for a first start in college football, that was a relatively poised performance at a Georgia Tech's quarterback, right?
He played better than our starting quarterback who's been playing football for 25 years.
Right.
So,
exactly.
That's what you need to know. I think that conservative game plan had an awful lot to do with, they thought, as a freshman, making his first start in college football against a defensive line that figured to give Georgia Tech more of a problem than they did. My guess is they thought, let's be conservative and make him make a lot of throws, make him make throws in succession, make plays, make good decisions time and again, and let's avoid the distinct possibility that he takes off and hurts us with his legs. So rather than create running lanes, natural running lanes for him by bringing a lot of pressure, let's let him sit in the pocket and throw the football. And it was a bend but don't break mentality that was working. They gave a lot of yards and you weren't getting off the field. In fact, 0 3-and-outs. Now that's troubling, but it was working. He did make mistakes. He did make a misread or two that led to opportunities for your defense to make plays, in particular Asante Samuel. But once he got comfortable, once the speed of the game was no longer in play, and confidence, a crisis of confidence occurred on our defense because of the here we go again mentality that has been born out of 3 years of suck. That kid then was emboldened and made plays. And Ira made a real good point on yesterday's Seminole Headlines that I want to point to, and that was, it looked like in the second half of that football game, Jeff Sims was playing football. He was trying to make winning plays. Sometimes it's not about the X's and O's. It's about what kind of decision you make in the heat of the moment with the battle rising. How do you play the game? Do you get the extra yard? Do you get the yard that's going to get you the first down, or do you step out of bounds early again? Do you make the kinds of plays that a guy who's immersed in competition makes, immersed in the heat of the battle, or do you think your way through everything and play a step slow because you're worried about the result? That was distinctly on display between those two teams in the second half.
Or you are worried about the concepts that you've been taught, that you haven't learned all the way through because you haven't had the opportunity to rep them all the way. And that's the one thing, on offense, a lot of times you could see the extra 4 and 5 seconds it took for everybody to get set and get ready. Now, I like that because that's a clear
you
difference.
Don't want more plays when you have an offensive line like ours. You want fewer plays.
I agree, although I was surprised by the tempo.
Early.
Yeah, that was
worked
something.
Early. That was scripted. That was fine. They had worked those plays a million times over.
But I like it because it's a stark contrast to I don't know where the hell I should be, and let's snap the ball and have 84 procedure or shift penalties or not enough on the line or whatever, right?
Yes.
So I get what you're trying to do. You're trying to get them to a place where maybe it becomes instinctive.
Yeah, and I think it was for the first 15 to 18 plays.
But the problem is, and this is just one drawback of doing it this way, I don't know that it's something that you can change by the Miami game. Those offensive linemen are in their crouch for a long time as we're getting set, as we're checking with the sideline. I know it's not the same thing as lining up in the eye and having your hand on the ground, but man, they're having to hold their position for a while. And so I wasn't surprised that as the game wore on and we're playing football or something close to it for 4.5 hours, it maybe has some procedure penalties because guys just have to sit there for freaking 30 seconds at a time.
Yeah, I think there were things about the offensive line that I liked a lot when the starting five were out there, and things I didn't like a lot when those guys began to get banged up. It was a bizarre set of circumstances that would see every single one of your linemen not named Baby and Johnson go down. I don't know that I've ever been at a game where that's happened, and it just sounds like the kind of thing that leaves us bereft of hope because it's not just that the circumstances surrounding game number 1 and season number 1 for Mike Norvell and his staff are difficult. It's that anything that can go wrong seems to. I mean, whether that's a quick triggered replay official from up top taking away a play that had already happened and you're immersed in the second play after it and they're buzzing down to say, wait a minute, we buzzed, let's go back and look at that previous successful play, or whether or not it's a weather delay, or whether or not it's COVID-19 taking away your spring, going down, disrupting every kind of rhythm you had. It's one after the other, and all of us are just palms to the sky. Are you effing kidding me? That's where we're at.
Every single pause did not help the Noles cause. At some point, you have to get up off the mat and force your way past a moment like that.
You're going to have to kick down the door, no doubt.
Every cramp that Georgia Tech may have suffered or probably didn't.
Well, you got to be better than that. This is what they do, man. That's what kids in college are coached to do. I see it anytime tempos run. We've done it. Florida State's done it to other teams. So I don't bitch about it unless they're going to change the rule. Like I said to you earlier, that's up to the NCAA. They got to start changing the rules on that. But they haven't. So you got to just be better. You just got to be better and deal with, listen, and we're about to segue to golf, so this works perfectly. I'm terrible at dealing with those that don't play quickly. You and I play more golf together than any human being on earth. We are together all the time playing golf.
We recently played with a friend of ours, and one time, I think, during the round, did it take a little bit longer. And you were all over that one time going, come on now. Come on now. That was the comment from the cart. What are we doing? Come on now.
Well, I don't have time for nonsense.
Jeez, we're going to finish this round in 3 1/4.
Yeah, let's go. What are you doing?
Could it be 3-12?
It could have been. I don't need my man who can't play a lick, and I've watched him in front of us all day long taking 16 practice swings. You're going to top it anyhow, dude. Just go top it with the quickness. Anyhow, so what I would say to that, and listen, I'm not Dustin Johnson out here. I'm just saying, let's go. If you're going to suck, you can suck quick. Now, What I would that was too easy. I'm sorry. But what I would
coming up next, Trey Jones on the Phone Hero Hotline.
No, I'm not real good at showing patience. I have gotten better over the years. I have gotten better in some cases, as long as I'm mentally prepared before we go in. Like, hey, it's going to be a doozy. Take your time on this one. It's going to take a little while. We're going to be out here 5 hours. All right. So, where was I going with this?
Well, that's what we should do as a football program. Every game's going to take 4 hours.
Yeah, no, as a pause. That's right. You've just got to wrap your mind around that that's the deal and take your time. And that we're going to get,
I got to tell you, too, from the post-game call-in show standpoint, I'm like, all right, so this is the year we're going to go 7:30 every game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I see him because we're going to have injury delays. It's probably going to rain through the opening in Hard Rock, and we're going to have a 2-hour delay.
I don't envy you, man. I admire it. It's great. It's another wonderful feature from our friends at warchant.com, having you and me on the pregame show on Warchant TV, along with you and Gene in the afterwards. That's all great. I'm glad I'm doing pre, not post. You guys have at it.
Yeah, I doubt that Jacksonville State's going to be a noon
Welcome
kick.
In. Give us a call. Let's talk about another loss.
Yeah, 10-3. If we can choose our start time, I think, right? Don't we get more leeway when you schedule one of those with the networks? I ain't going to be a nooner. So, okay. All right. And everybody's going to have cramps every single play.
Yeah. Some weather delays to boot.
Soft tissue problems because we didn't get to do the full camp thing.
No, that's a lightning about somewhere out over the Atlantic. There's been a lightning detract.
We're going to kick off the second half at 10:40. Here we go. All right.
It's 3:30. We saw some lightning up at Maryland. We're a little worried about its proximity. We're going to kick this off 7 hours from now.
If there is a delay, Gene and I are going to do a halftime show. Like, Gene, can we do the halftime call-in show?
All right, guys. As usual, we have the lead. Brace yourself for the collapse. Understand that we're going to blow this lead. It's what we do. We got a lead. Now we're going to blow that lead, and you got to wrap your mind around that.
Welcome to the War Chant weather break. This is during the weather delay show. What you got for me?
Trey Jones is live at Winged Foot. It is as gorgeous a course as you'll see and as trying a course as you'll see for the U.S. Open, which gets started tomorrow. Couple Noles, would have been more than a couple, had obviously Brooks Koepka not gotten hurt, but Daniel Berger is there and Johnny Pack is there, and Florida State's head coach is there too. We'll talk to him next. We'll wrangle him in a moment, I'm sure. Trey Jones at Wingfoot. I'm going to call in and talk about the U.S. Open and what the experience is like, and what has it been like, I should say, for Johnny Pack. I actually think he's got the right temperament for this, Tom. This is for those of you who only tune in when there's a major. We've got one this week. Kind of gets lost in the shuffle with the NFL, college football, NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs. But it's starting tomorrow.
I got to tell you, I wish this was one that was played on the West Coast, because without Pac-12 after dark, didn't your Saturday feel a little incomplete last week?
Yeah. They need to start scheduling some of these poor East Coast teams to play at 10:30.
Like us.
Yeah.
I'll do it. Might as well.
Let's go.
If we're going to have weather delays anyway, might as well kick it off at 10.
Well, I am really, really excited about what's about to take place. This course is as storied as they come. It's absolutely breathtaking and extremely difficult. It reminds you a little bit of Olympia Fields. Tiger Woods talked yesterday about the fact that there are a few courses, this being one of them, saying that Wingfoot ranks up there as one of the 3 or 4 toughest tests in golf without even having to do anything to the course. So he mentioned Oakmont, Carnoustie, and then he mentioned this one, Wingfoot. He said these are the 3 that you don't even have to really trick it up or do anything much different other than the design for it to work and become as difficult as they want it to be, which is the truest test of golf, right? The U.S. Open, every facet of your game on display. Well, you hear that, and then you hear DJ say he's never played on a course this difficult, like he doesn't think, but he also noted that it was fair. And I think that is the thing that you'll hear repeatedly is the golfers will talk about how fair of a test it is. Difficult, and if you find the rough, you're in real trouble. You're going to eat a number. But at the same time, you're probably not going to see huge numbers here because there aren't many penalties. There aren't many hazards at that course. There are 2. So you really have an opportunity to probably not see huge numbers.
Yeah, you might see unplayable lies or something like that. Mm-hmm. That's the source of an issue. Yeah, you're
not going to see people posting 9s. Like, that can happen in certain courses where you get out of sorts and you're not, you're behind the hole, you got nowhere to land it, something like that, or it's OB, and you get wayward or something like that. That's not really what this is. I think the other thing to point out, and we talked about this when the season started, that one of the things that was going to make this year on the PGA Tour unlike any previous season was that players are used to having the ability to find their ball no matter where they hit it. Because it's all the rough on the once you go off the fairway, you're hitting into a gallery. They've got 4 caddies and officials everywhere. They find your ball. It could be up in a tree, but they find it. And so players don't have to, search desperately for a ball and then eventually take a drop or have to re-tee because they can't find it. Courses like this one, it could happen because the rough is so high and there's no area in which the rough is trampled down because there are no spectators. So the thought this week is that if you get offline, like terribly, like you really spray one, duck hook one or slice the hell out of one, which we see even pros do, you may not find your ball.
Can I say something about the broadcast that I thought I never would? I'm going to miss Fox because this is NBC now, and NBC's gotten worse. I know he's a somewhat proud Noel, but Azinger makes NBC's coverage worse than Johnny Miller's version of it.
Well, Johnny Miller was tough to replace.
And
that was
Gary Koch's kind of over the hill. They stuffed David Faraday in a box for like 2 holes, and he's hardly useful during the broadcast. So Fox showed a ton of golf. They showed a ton of golf shots, but CBS and NBC have got this thing, the eye on the course or the playing through thing, down. They got it down pat.
Yeah.
And the spots. Fox would show you wall-to-wall golf for 4 days, if nothing else. I know the commentary wasn't as good, but at least you saw everything. And they're the ones that started the shot tracer on more than just 2 tee shots around. Mm-hmm. I think they did a lot to advance it. We're going to miss them. At least I am as a viewer this weekend.
Hopefully this is a better version than what we've seen lately. I don't know how you don't get more out of Faraday, who's great on the course. You got to get more of him.
They got a ton of egos at that network, like way too many, and they don't have clear lines of delineation. You got people talking over each other all broadcast long.
One thing about this, again, as a course, it's 100 years old, and many people would argue that, or maybe not argue that it's even more sloped on the greens than Augusta, and it's a problem for these players because when the course was designed and when it opened as a club, you're talking about the 1920s. So if you've got a pitch that slopes, meaning from back to front of the green 7 to 8 feet, well, that's a lot. It's extreme. But if the stimp, which it would have been back then because of the lack of equipment, is at 8 or 9, your ball's not going to go flying off the green 10 yards into the fairway. It will here. If you put too much pace from up top or you miss in the wrong spot, I mean, that thing, you could barely tap it and it's gone.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the weather report yet, too. If the wind is up on top of it, that also becomes a multiplier of an issue.
We'll see. Let's do this. Let's step aside really quick. He's trying to call right now, but we're having some technical issues. We'll get him on the line and make it happen here in a moment. Talk to Trey Jones from Wingfoot. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. This will be a lot of fun. Let's talk to my man. He's the head golf coach at Florida State University, Trey Jones. He's up at Wingfoot right now with one of our own, Johnny Pack, who, by the way, if you guys have not gone to Seminoles.com to read what Johnny Pack had to write, he gave his perspective on playing in the U.S. Open for the first time. It's a good read. It goes back to when he made a decision to move from New Jersey to the state of Florida so that he could golf year-round. Thank goodness for all of us he has, because he's been incredible at Florida State, and he finished where he needed to in order to get in that top 7 and be invited to Winged Foot to play in the U.S. Open. Trey Jones is there with him currently, and he's there as he joins us right now. Hey, Coach.
My friend, how are you?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. This is, I got to tell you, I'm envious, but just to let our listeners know, Trey was kind enough this morning to include me on a FaceTime as he and Johnny Pack played a practice round, or as Trey walked with Johnny Pack as he played a practice round and showed me the sights and sounds. As you guys were playing behind Tiger Woods, that doesn't suck. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we were going to ask to play through him, but he fortunately, that never came to that.
Yeah, he didn't have to play through. Let's speed it up, old man.
Right. Excuse me, sir.
By the way, as I talk to Trey, everybody should know that all guests appear via the Phone Hero hotline, specializing in iPhone and iPad repair. 2 locations, 2915 Cary Forest Parkway, 833 West Gain Street. Online at phoneherotlh.com. Trey, what stood out to you the most so far? Let's talk about your player. Not everybody listening to this show knows as much about Johnny Pack as certainly you do, and maybe even I do. We know what an extraordinary young man he is. Talk about what led to this opportunity.
Well, he got in. Obviously, there wasn't a qualifier this year due to COVID, and I think the USGA did a phenomenal job of realizing, going back and looking at history, and determining how many amateurs generally qualify for the U.S. Open and how many Korn Ferry players go through the qualifiers. And they figured out a way to get those players in the field. And for anyone to say this is not a U.S. Open, it's completely inaccurate, in my opinion, because before the qualifier was 54 holes, okay? An 18-hole first qualifier, then a 36-hole second qualifier to get here. Well, 54 holes of qualifying versus the top 7 amateurs in the world over the last year. So you've got a year's worth of work versus 54 holes. Well, the Korn Ferry guys that got here, versus 54 holes, they had to get on their point system over those 14 events and 15 events, whatever it was. So the qualifying way harder than it has been, and I think by that you have a little stronger field of amateurs and probably a stronger field in general.
I think it's great to see. He, by the way, finished, 7th? He was in that top 7. He barely got in.
7th. He barely got in because he missed the cut in USAM. So, by a shot. So we thought that might have cost him, but fortunately it did not.
Yeah, it didn't, and he's there now. And talk about his mindset. You've walked the course with him. You've watched him play. There's a lot to be gleaned, a lot to learn while you're there as an amateur. You've done this before. You're no stranger to it. You've seen your players. I was lucky enough to be invited by you to walk with Harry as we did at Augusta, but you've done it with Drew Kittleson and others. Talk to me about what you think his mindset is as he's there this week to compete.
Well, Jeff, I know we're going to get this out, so let's just go ahead and do it anyway. I haven't had an opportunity to talk to Jack Nicklaus in a private housing setting yet.
Like we did, right? Like we did. That was a special time for you and me and Jack. Probably Jack, really, but yeah. Maybe he'll fly in. You'll get a chance to see him. I'll text him for you, Trey.
Perfect. But no, John, he told me at lunch after the final practice round today was he just feels like it's house money and he doesn't have the pressure that a lot of the other guys have. He has no expectations. No one expects him to play well. And, you're starting out at the bottom of the pack when you're the last amateur in. So what possibly could go wrong? And he's looking to learn. And he's going to, kind of keep a diary of all the things that he does well and what he thinks works well and go from there. So he's a competitor. Don't take that in a way of, he's just going to be out there, finishing out from 4 feet. But he does understand, too, that this is a process, and he's going to enjoy it.
Trey, does it matter that this is a course that nobody's going to score well on? I mean, the winner is probably going to be over par. History tells us that's how difficult this course is. People like Tiger Woods said it's one of the 3 or 4 most difficult courses in the world. How does that affect his mentality? Would you prefer that as opposed to a place where people could go out there and find a number?
Absolutely. So there becomes a time in a golf course that if it's set up too easy, then everyone shoots the same thing. But also, if it's set up so difficult, a vast majority can shoot the same thing, except for, just a few group of people. So it's going to bunch the scores up. And I think when people say the scoring isn't good, I think they need to take the word par out, because it's, as you and I, we'll talk about later on our radio show tonight, but it's Augusta National with 5-inch rough.
Yeah, Augusta National with 5-inch rough, and no relief the way that Augusta National gives us the back nine, where scoring is possible. But it's not really. I know I was talking to you this morning, and you were good to mention the show tonight on SiriusXM, PGA Tour Network. But I know you've talked with a lot of people there, some of the greats. That there's no real stretch where you anticipate people going low, like birding 3 or 4 holes in a row. That can happen at Augusta. That's not going to happen here.
And that's its kind of a characteristic, isn't it? Augusta, the back nine on Sunday.
Yeah.
It's kind of built for that. And the U.S. Open's not built for that. The U.S. Open's just to be the hardest golf course, and it should be the 1 week where it's just brutal. And it's going to be. It's absolutely going to be. The only stretch you might see out here is 6, 7, and 9. That's 3 holes that, I don't see everybody picking on them. They're not gifts by any stretch, but they're not. Those are the 3 easier holes on the golf course.
Trey, are we going to have a lot of wind? What's the weather there right now? I am curious. A hard golf course becomes even more difficult as the wind picks up and the weather stays cool. What do you got there now?
I hate to tell you this, Jeff, but what you guys are dealing with right now, but the low was 60 or 55 today and high is 75, and we're going to get that. A cool snap's going to come through, but you're just going to get dry weather, a little cool and breezy on Friday morning for John's 7 o'clock tee time, wind out of the north. But we're not going to be pulling these guys off the golf courses with air horns, and it's going to be awesome. You're going to see them in light sweaters early on and short sleeve shirts in the afternoon.
You son of a gun. I'm so envious. So you're telling me 75-55. Tough life, Trey, on a beautiful golf course. That's going to work nicely. By the way, so other than maybe some wind here and there, would you say this course is, it sounds like it in your voice, absolutely fair?
Oh, sure it is. I think there's only a couple chances all day that you might have to hit a ball in a hazard. There's just a couple of little, there's like to the left of 6, and to the left of 15 off the tee, there's a hazard. But other than that, you're not going to see people dropping balls or anything unusual. The other thing I think is going to be fair is there's no spectators here, obviously, so the rough won't be beat down. And you will not see one guy get a good lie and then 3 feet left of him get a bad lie. The worse you miss it, the better you are if there's a crowd here. Well, that's not the case by any stretch. You might get an tire track here or there, but that would surprise me.
I can't let you leave without the inside dope, and you have some. This is really cool. I don't know if anybody else in America has the kind of scoop that you have, and I know this because you told me. So you saw Tiger Woods messing around with the bag. What's he doing?
He was having breakfast this morning at 6, and one of the shaft manufacturers from KBS was in there, and I was like, early start, and he says, the guy in front of you this morning is trying to get a 2-iron in the bag. So that tells you a little bit about the golf course right there, when someone of Tiger's ability is thinking about changing his golf bag just to get a ball out there in the fairway.
So a little 2-iron, and he may change the putter, you told me, too.
Putter grip, that famous ping putter grip. I think you're going to see a Lampkin putter grip on his putter this week.
Here we go. Look at you. Have fun, man. Enjoy this. Thanks for calling in from up there. And obviously, we're all fans of Johnny Pack. I can't wait. So enjoy it and safe travels, buddy.
All right. Take care, man.
Take care. That's Trey Jones. He's the head golf coach at Florida State and one of our guys, Johnny Pack, playing in this tournament. Again, go read that on Seminoles.com, his story of how he got in. He mentions not playing well in the U.S. Amateur, and he had to sweat it out. And he was waiting, and this is kind of funny. He was staying with his parents, and when the announcement was going to be made, obviously they're not on campus at this time. You had the situation with COVID, so he's back home. And, he's worried. He knows they're going to make the announcement on a Wednesday morning. Can't sleep, so he gets up and goes for a run. And there's a real chance he's not going to make it, and he thought he had really shot himself in the foot by missing out in the U.S. Amateur by one stroke. And he goes for a run. When he comes back, his parents are banging on the window. They're on the top floor as he's coming in to the driveway, and they're banging on the window because the news had just come in that he was in the top 7 at number 7. He was the last name revealed.
Oh, man.
Can you imagine waiting and they go through 6 and you don't know, and the last name is your son's name, and they're going nuts?
Better off that he wasn't in the room, or else he would have puked.
When he tells the story, I want to puke. I'm like, I'm a dad. I can't imagine waiting to see one of my kids' names and you don't know and you want that for him. There's only one chance. I mean, they can never, no matter what happens in his career, you'll never be able to take this moment away. It's like the guy that gets the call to the major leagues and he has an AB, right? That will never go away. You got your AB. It happened. Now, hopefully you have a lot more and you go on to have a successful career, but you've played something your whole life for a chance like this, to play in the U.S. Open at a course that is as famous as any. And it comes down to the final pick, and you get in. Now, you've earned it. You've done enough to be in the running, and you're waiting. But, when he tees up tomorrow at noon. He tees up on Friday. He gets the late early, and he's happy about that. And Trey explained why, because there's already going to be carnage on the course, and so it won't be like he'll know the cut line or anything like that coming up in his mind. It's just kind of like, a lot of people are out here sucking. Okay, all right.
Again with that. Yep. Hopefully quickly.
Yeah. Well, the point is that that he got a noon 7 a.m. And he was really excited about that. And I want to relay this because, I've been talking to him most of the day. He told me that they were on the course playing a practice round, and he's walking with Johnny, and they're kind of, they're watching Phil Mickelson and Justin Rose and Tiger Woods and all these guys playing around him so that they could figure out where they're putting from. Because where they set their tees will tell you where they think the pins are going to be, right? In the practice rounds, that's what you're doing. You're figuring out where am I going to hit to, what can I reach, what I can't, where are the hazards, what do I have to avoid, what gives me the most aggressive shot into the green that I can hold, and where are we putting from, right? So you'll do it on 4 spots. As they're doing that, his phone vibrates, meaning Johnny Pax, and it's the tee time. And you're just waiting. You don't know who you're paired with, what time you're teeing off, and the whole morning he's out there hitting, and they're like, I don't know, what do you think? You don't know. It's unlikely they could pair you with Tiger. You don't know,
right?
At some of the majors, the tradition is that you play with a former winner. So, like an old guy that's got no chance to win, but has won that.
Let's put the 285s together.
Let's put the old man. Hey, you're going to be playing with whatever, and you get out there and you play with a guy who's 70 years old. Other times you may play with last year's champion, so they'll polar opposites or something. He didn't know. He found out, that he got the noon tea time. It was elated. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. opportunity here to listen to Alex Atkins talk. What did I say? Oh, you got to go Norvell? I thought we were going to go offensive line, but we're not going to go offensive line. We're going to go quarterback. No?
We can do that, Norvell, with quarterbacks. We also have him for O-line as well.
What do you want to do, baby? I don't care.
Let's stick with the O-line because there's encouraging notes about the
I
offensive line.
wanted to go with whatever felt encouraging. Here's Mike Norvell.
I thought the guys as a whole, they're coming. And I'll say that there were some mistakes, some things that showed up. I thought early, coming out, I thought they did a nice job for those first few series, consistently, in their pass protection and what they were doing. We were able to create some run lanes. I thought that was really evident throughout the course of the game. I thought that. We did some nice things, but we would have whether it was a mistake here or a mistake there, everything has to work together. And I thought that's the biggest thing we're going to have to continue to work on is this consistency. It was unfortunate throughout the game we ended up playing 5 different lineups with those guys. That was we had guys that had to move out to positions where they hadn't repped. We went into the game and Robert Scott and Thomas Schrader were unavailable for the game, and those were 2 guys that we were have been counting on within the depth of that top group, and so it forced guys to have to move around to different positions that maybe they haven't got as many reps at, and I mean it's just some of those things showed up, but I think that. You see the potential, and it kind of goes back to what we can do, but what will we do, and we just have to continue to work. Those guys, I'm excited about the group, I really am, and the response and guys having to fill in different spots. We've got to clean up some of the communication issues, but I think all in all, there's going to be great potential for growth in that unit.
Can anything else go wrong? You have 5 guys go down, 4 guys go down in one game along your offensive line at a position where you really can't afford guys to go down. But ordinarily, you'd have 2 other guys that are backups along that offensive front that he's alluding to, Robert Scott being one of them, that were not available to you. And, I guess I can make an assumption about maybe that's COVID. I don't know. I'm not trying to say that those kids that weren't available had it, but it was a surprise that they were not available for the game, and they are available for the next game. So, I mean, it's kind of strange, but the bottom line is, okay, that happens. Maybe a guy goes down, maybe 2 guys go down, but you end up losing 4 of the 5 at varying points, and then you got guys having to play out of position because 2 of the backups at those positions can't go. They're not allowed to play in that game, or they're unable to play in that game, and what the freaking hell? It is so frustrating, but it does give you a little bit of hope. Coach Atkins talked about it, too, that he's got a nucleus. He's got a group of, and I'm going to read between the lines here. He's got 3 guys he feels really good about of the starting 5 and 2 that back them up that are coming really quickly to get there,
But that is an upgrade as to like 2 weeks ago.
Hell yes, it is.
There are places that, say, edge rusher, we thought we'd see a little bit more, we didn't. Quarterback, we were hoping that you see a baseline of, all right, he's not going to do the crazy thing anymore. Well, that's out the window. He did the crazy thing again.
All the time.
The O-line, I mean, I get it. It's Georgia Tech's D-line, and Clayton was not a part of their lineup on Saturday. So
they were missing 3 players, actually, so it's a problem.
Right. But you're looking for any positives you can get on that offensive line, and we actually got them. So that's kind of new and nice and novel in its own right.
You might be able to arrive at substandard. You might be able to arrive at not good enough, but not an unmitigated disaster. Okay. I mean, at least for this year. Now, next year, you can maybe even get to butt-ass average, which was what we've been aspiring to for years now.
Then it's on. Then we're flipping this thing.
Oh, here we go. We got us a butt-ass average offensive line. Time to ride. I hope you're right. By the way, that practice update brought to you by Keith McNeil Plumbing. Give them a call today. 24-hour emergency service available, 850-562-5504. I use Keith McNeil Plumbing. They have been around for eons, for starters, and they're all experts. They're competent, they're smart, they're dependable, they're excellent, they work hard, they're professional, they're all the things you're going to want. They're good at their job. Hour number 2, forthcoming. Stay with Jeff Kimmer Show. Hour number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Hope you're being safe out there. Weather is obviously an issue, and we get into these studios. I know things start to go south. I can see it on my timeline, or we go out there and peak, and I can tell it's worsening. So I don't know how bad it is right now because we can't see, but be safe out there. Thanks for listening to the show. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. If you're streaming, you're listening while driving, you can, it is a radio show. Be safe and traverse your way home so that I don't have to deal with you when I get out of here at 6 o'clock. With inclement weather and the like, Hello, YouTubers. You want to email the show, you can, jcs@979espnradio.com. It's good to hear from Trey Jones up at Winged Foot, where we have the U.S. Open getting started tomorrow morning. The weather decidedly better there, 75, 55. That'll work. He made me laugh. He said they teed off this morning. It was a little nippy. I said, how so? He said, it's about 51. Well, 2 Florida guys. I was like, Johnny Pack's from New Jersey. He's probably fine.
51 on the hands, though. You better not thin it.
Yeah,
probably not a problem for somebody of John Pack's quality.
Right, yeah, I don't think they were. There was yesterday on the Golf Channel, there was a video of Trey standing directly behind Tiger Woods, watching Tiger Woods' warm-up session, and Trey had to come out and say, I was not doing that. My golfer just happened to set his golf balls down next to Tiger Woods. Rory was 2 over. DeChambeau was to his left.
Don't see you there, Trey. I see you. Always around the cameras, Coach.
Yeah, so it was funny to see that or hear that and to listen to the stories, but that golf course is going to wreak havoc on players tomorrow. We talked some last hour about Coach Norvell's comments in the quarterback room regarding the quarterback room. The news of the day isn't just that. It's that the Big Ten has announced they'll be back to play in October, and that's pretty funny to talk about because it's also not surprising. Follow the money.
Follow the money also for the Pac-12. Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, said this today. Nothing in the state guidelines for California denies the ability for the Pac-12 to resume. That's a reinterpretation. I don't know what turpentation is, but it's a misrepresentation.
Yeah,
it's a misrepresentation of the facts. So, Gavin Newsom is now positioning and allowing California to make its own plans, the universities in that state, to play Pac-12 football. So maybe Pac-12 After Dark will be coming soon.
We'll see. They seemed much more fervent in their efforts. They cited specifics, unlike the Big Ten, which made a mess of their situation because they didn't even bother to cite specifics as to why they weren't playing. The Pac-12 did. They named the doctor. They quoted him directly and said, we're following his advice. That made sense. You can disagree with him if you want to, but at least they adhered to a specific somebody in the field who was an expert. The Big Ten just said, well, we've talked to some people.
And trust me, this decision is final.
Yeah, we won't revisit it, I believe was the quote, except for when we revisit it very shortly because all of our institutions said, hey, man, not cool, especially now that we know it doesn't appear to be any less safe to play than not. Going to revisit that decision?
So the hot mic thing yesterday for Nebraska.
In Nebraska, yeah.
Do you think that was intentional?
I do.
So do I.
I thought it was intentional when I saw that was the source, that it happened. I have not heard the audio. I've just read what was picked up on the hot mic. Given the people involved in the way that it was seemingly very neat and tidy, I can tell you this, folks. Hot mics, generally speaking, pick up things that one would never want you to hear. Not always salacious, but just things that you wouldn't want folks to hear. And we have any number of examples of that. Rather recently, for example, the Cincinnati Reds come to mind. In that situation with Brennan, that was,
good old Thom Brenneman.
Yeah, that was something to behold. We always refer to it whenever we talk about Tanner Roark starting. That was a
good old Keith Hernandez.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's on the level of good old as Thom, but
that was a classic. And when he said what he said for everybody to hear.
Roark got knocked out in the 3rd inning.
Roark's been getting his
slit. He really has.
Okay. I like how your boy's like, oh, yeah, he really has.
You talk about anticipation. That's Jameis Winston 2013 anticipation.
Well, he knows exactly what's coming.
Roark got knocked out in the 3rd inning.
Roark's been getting his slit.
He really has.
Roark spin it was enough. That's enough for Gary Corners. I know where he's going.
Yeah.
Every time in our pre-show meeting.
He loves to bring it up.
Why does everybody love Roark?
Yeah.
He's not good.
That is so good. I love that Keith was going to get that. He couldn't wait. Well, look at that again. And I love that, yes, your boy is like, here we go.
Well, you know what? There's regret probably in his voice when he mentions the Roark note. He's
Yeah.
like,
I did
I thought Ron was on the call, not Keith tonight.
Roark got knocked out in the third inning.
Roark's been getting his
Yeah,
slit.
he really has.
Yes, he really has. He's just. I have to believe that when they were getting ready to come back on and not knowing that mic was live, that some producer was in his ear like, get a hold of Keith, and you guys are live. Okay, welcome back to 2.
My favorite hot mic moment that wouldn't get somebody fired, but it was just amazing, happened in the 90s. It's Tampa Bay Lightning hockey on WTTA 38. This is when Sunshine Network was full. This is where the games went. Mm-hmm. And they glowed because the camera wouldn't work on that channel. And Bobby the Chief Taylor.
Oh, Bobby.
Oh, good old Bobby the Chief. So the broadcast is done. And we'll say goodnight from Sunrise. Lightning beat the Panthers. And he goes, with the music. And then it's still rolling as the camera is frozen on a highlight. And he goes, "You stupid son of a..." And I was like, oh, my God. And then it just cuts to the next program.
What happened here?
Bobby the Chief. I wish Twitter was around. I'd keep that forever.
Well, we got John Gruden on a hot mic during the draft.
Oh, yep, with Mel Kiper. That was when he was on ESPN's desk.
And that was the best. He's like, there are some stupid, in this league. And they're like, yes. And
A lot of
Mel's
dumbass picks.
Yeah, dumbass picks. And then Mel looks mortified. He's, welcome back. And
Mel was laughing, though, too. I was like, this is awesome.
Well, it was the kid from Oregon that they drafted at defensive end. It was the Dolphins.
Well, it was Deion Jordan, but this was the Clausen pick, too.
Oh, right.
And we remember that he had the only person that John Gruden was actually tough on was
Mean.
Jimmy Clausen.
He was mean. He thought he was a bum. A lot of dumbass picks.
I grew up loving Notre Dame, Jimmy. You made me hate it.
Yeah, that's
how
good.
bad you are.
No, I would also tell you that, you don't. I have my own hot mic stories over the years. Surprisingly few, given the years of conversations. But I had one with a commercial. This is a lack of editing. This is me doing a commercial for the late great Lee Bowen.
Who was in charge of this editing?
An intern who is a friend and working in the business.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Made it through that. Okay.
Almost got fired. Was beside himself. Yeah.
Good for whomever to have the restraint there.
Mm-hmm. Good guy. Good guy. He's doing well. He's all right. He's been in the business for a long time. But he was supposed to listen to all of the cuts. I had to do. This was an assignment that I had back then. You talk about paying dues. I had to read these 15-second liners, and I had to put them in the system. They had to run throughout the day. And Matt Millar will remember this, but anyhow, I hated it. It was just a thankless job. It's the kind of stuff that I ended up pretending I couldn't do later on so that I wouldn't be asked.
So these are not audio files on a computer? Were these actual cassettes, or how was this edited?
It was in the production room at what is now iHeart. And
okay,
yeah,
so it was like
MP3s.
MP3s.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
yeah, you put it into the file, and then So I got done reading, I don't know, probably 20 of these things, and one of them was something to do, I think it was Starburst or something like that. Unleash the Power of the Sun, whatever it was. I remember I had to say that. And I screwed it up, and they ran during the Jim Rome show. And when I screwed up, because I was tired of doing them, I may have said some things that I shouldn't have said.
In that little cubicle of a room,
In that little cubicle of a room, I recorded it, and I said MF or something like that. And I was mad at myself, and I was mad, and then I just continued. And he didn't pick it up. He didn't notice it. And then it ran during the Jim Rome show.
That's awesome.
And the best part was I was working with Eric Llewellyn, and I was home because I was doing mornings, and he was doing afternoons, and I got a call from him, and he said, "Hey, man, did you say..." during the line, yes, but Kevin was supposed. Oh, sorry, I just gave it up. Was supposed to edit that or take a look at it. And he's like, yeah, he didn't. It just ran, and our phone lines are lighting up because people are driving around during drive time listening to you. He's like, now I've pulled it from the system. Hopefully, Lee didn't hear it.
Yeah, well, he's going to have a voicemail.
Yeah.
You know that's coming on the answering machine.
Yeah. So luckily, some people were calling in and laughing. They thought it was the funniest thing ever. Yeah, Millar did. That was yeah. He remembers it.
Ooh, my heart in my throat though. You know the near miss, back in 2012. You remember that one? So the archaic board required like missile codes in order to switch off a live.
Yeah.
And one of our interns, who is an all-timer of an intern.
This is the spilling on the. Which was always that was a good one.
This
too.
didn't switch back off of live board, and that's the day that he also locked himself out of the building during the pregame show and couldn't get in.
All-timer is
He's
right.
an all-timer intern, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
But he didn't switch the board off of live, which means that when you called Jimbo Fisher to have your off-the-record conversation,
it was going to be on the record,
highly inflammatory in terms of language,
might
back
be some
and forth.
Things said between the two of us, sure.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that was going to happen around 3-4 o'clock for whatever reason that Sunday.
Panicked, yeah.
I called the station a million times. You wouldn't pick up. I called your cell phone.
Hey.
I had the station on. I'm going, please God, no. Because I was going to call a transmitter and shut the station down. I was going to turn it off the air.
Well, you wanted to save his job and mine.
Yeah.
I mean, potentially Coach Fisher's and mine.
And everyone's. And everyone's.
This is a nightmare.
Oh, my God. Our system was not like that for not 2 months more. But it was the most bass-backwards place I've ever walked into here originally. And we almost got bit by it.
Yeah, the only other time is I was doing a game with Lee Bowen, and I thought we were in a break, and I said something about a player. And it was less than flattering. And
wait, this was
play-by-play? This was color. I was doing color, and I said something about a player when we went to break, what I thought we were doing in break.
So you stepped on his call at one point.
Stepped on his call.
At one point you ripped a player on our team?
Yeah.
On our own team?
On our own team.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He thought it was funny. You hear him chuckle, and then people are like, you're on. Oh. So only a few people heard that.
A couple of people in the stands.
Yeah.
Like that dog gif.
Yeah, you're on, my man. Yeah, stomped on his call for the grand slam from Brett Groves. I still feel bad. I can't undo it. He was livid. You should have seen the look wash over his face. He couldn't hide his anger. It was just seething. He's seething because it was a grand call. I mean, it's the kind of call that you dream of as a play-by-play announcer, and this guy that you're inviting along to try to teach him the ropes just stomps all over it. That's gone, Lee. All right.
Don't worry, I'll tell him.
Well, he's
stand down.
Yeah, he's like, that's hit well. I'm like, that's gone, Lee. I'm like, there's no need to tell everybody that that's a high fly ball. That pitch is gone. What are you talking about? I mean, that thing was hammered. We should probably go about the business of doing a radio show. We will next. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. what happened with the Celtics and the Heat. That was incredible. But the fact that the Clippers blew a 3-1 lead and had it come to a crescendo, and they lose Game 7 after throwing away Game 6 and 5. And, I mean, kudos to that Denver team who we've been saying for a while is good. And they've got pieces.
Stingy, but also talented. They're not boring.
No, they're fun. I don't think they'll beat the Lakers, but they're good. But the league doesn't get the matchup that they assumed they were going to get, that we all assumed that they were going to get. Kawhi versus LeBron would have been riveting. And the principal players, that was stunning to watch take place.
They don't hit their first field goal in the fourth quarter until 5 minutes to play. Are you kidding me? In crunch time? You deserve to go home before even the 2-minute mark.
It was bizarre. It really was, watching that play out. I'm still stunned. I don't suppose that's a good thing. You would have rather have seen Clippers-Lakers. Ratings-wise.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I mean,
they're already leaking oil, and it's got there's a lot of reasons for it. You know, like the NFL is one big reason, and the other is you're playing games at 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 7 and 9. Those 1 o'clock in the afternoon games probably not going to do so well.
No.
Like your primetime ratings would be.
Well, but they're getting their money. The advertising is what they were going for there, and they're doing fine. It's going to be interesting to watch. A nightmare for them is a Heat Nuggets finals. Got the Heat's Nuggets, do we?
Now, it would be actually really good TV.
Oh, it'd be riveting.
All four of these teams left could really create a compelling final, which is going to be fun. But if the Heat and the Celtics are anything close to what Game 1 was last night, we are in for a classic of a series.
Yeah, I hope that's true. I hope we get all of that. By the way, Pro Bowl wide receiver Chris Godwin, experiencing delayed onset symptoms after a hit to the head Sunday, is in the concussion protocol for Week 2. That, according to Bruce Arians. Sweet Jesus, man, really?
Bruce has been in that protocol for years anyway.
I mean, he's probably your best and leading receiver, certainly, and you're going to need him to, play football if you're going to avoid going 0-2. Carolina's not great.
Well, they've got to come with some tricks on offense. That's the thing here, because I think this defense for Tampa can stop anything that you do. Like the first and primary thing that you're good at, we're going to be able to stop it. And the question is, is this new offense under Joe Brady anything like the previous one where they had all kinds of weird formations and gadgets? Because that was the interesting thing, is as good as Peyton is and as much continuity as there was from year to year in that offense for the Saints, all of their primary stuff was stymied from the get-go.
Yeah, it was stymied, and listen, teams are going to catch on. I'm sorry, I know I like to pat myself on the back over this, but I've been saying it for over a year. My man is getting worse, not better. You can talk about him all you want. They win a lot of games. They're well coached, and he's savvy enough to make some things happen here and there, and you had an all-world receiver who's also hurt now. But they throw everything underneath. The Saints are playing 10 yards and in from the line of scrimmage. There are exceptions. They run some trick plays. When they have to throw the ball deep, they bring in Taysom Hill because their starting quarterback can't. So, I mean, it's interesting. I think the Saints are a fascinating team to watch play the rest of the year because they got a real good defense. They can shut things down across the board in the passing game and in the run game. They get after the passer. They're well coached. They do have a veteran Hall of Fame, all-time great quarterback that can make enough things happen with pre-snap reads and check downs until the cows come home that, they should win enough games to get to the playoffs. But I just don't think you can be the Super Bowl contender that they're talked about as if you're just now a check down Charlie at quarterback, which is exactly what Drew Brees is, a check down Charlie.
Yeah, exactly. If you're talking about the Super Bowl,
not
a 10-win season, or maybe you could backdoor a division championship, right?
No. I'm talking about winning the Super Bowl. That's the only reason you come back if you're his age.
Right,
you got every record under the sun. You're making a run at it.
But Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara can win you games week to week in the league.
But Michael Thomas is hurt. So there you go. Now, I mean, it will be fascinating. And then what's equally fascinating now is if Chris Godwin doesn't play for the Bucs this week and Evans is hampered with the hamstring and he's also on the other side of his career arc, which I'm worried about as well. You started to notice it last year, so did I. Had games where he just didn't play well, just didn't get open, period, and wasn't really a threat. And then, listen, this was first guess, not second guess, that he was going to do all of nothing in that game against the Saints. Fine, you get a touchdown when the game's out of reach in the waning seconds, which is good for me since he's on my fantasy team and at least went from 0 points for the day to 6. But, he was useless, shut down again, and he would have been shut down had he been completely healthy. He can't. Lattimore owns him. That's just not good. It will be interesting to see what they do. I don't know what they're going to do on offense.
Well, we'll see what the running game looks like against a defense that's not as stout in the front seven as what New Orleans brings to the table. The other thing I'd say, too, is you can see what the offense looks like formationally speaking without Godwin involved in it. Gronk was hardly a part of the plan.
No,
I forgot that we acquired him halfway through the game.
Talk about looking old.
Yeah, exactly.
He looked old. He looked slow-footed, and it was almost like it was cumbersome for him to do anything. Again, first game back, took a year off, all that. I was like, what are you doing? I mean, just use the other two. This guy here looks like a bum.
The fun thing is a lot of people who didn't care that Donovan Smith was substandard last year and our Bucs fans are about to care a whole lot more. At least they'll jump on board now that a different quarterback is under center.
Well, one thing I'll note is Max Kellerman, who's on these airwaves, amongst others, about 2 or 3 others. Not many had the courage to do it, but a couple did. They're like, it should get better. They'll get their timing down. Things are going to get more interesting, and Tom will figure out a way because that's who he is, and I don't doubt that. But they noted, the difference in this game is that, if Dom's going to throw 2 interceptions like that, at least with Jameis, you would have had 2 more touchdown passes and an extra 180 yards. Yes, Max. Yes, you would have. Yes, you would have. That is to say, he would have played better.
Yeah, I'm just surprised we didn't spread things out more. If you have that many weapons and Tom runs out of the shotgun mostly anyway, what's this idea about trying to run the ball downhill? What are we doing here? This is going to be a pass-first offense that opens up running lanes, right? That has to be the philosophy.
Probably. One way or the other, you got to get to where you can run the ball and throw off of play action. That's what Tom's entire career is about, is throwing the ball off of play action. So however you got to do it.
Like, to me, since Scotty Miller and Tom have something going on, and they had a good camp together, and he's an over-the-top threat, I
surely
imagine.
is a joke there.
Amazing.
There surely is a joke
right.
there. It's an amazing coincidence that it took him 5 minutes to start throwing to the white guy only.
Right. But that guy's a burner, unlike a lot of the ones that he's had in the past.
Oh, no, those guys could all play. That's not to slight. I mean,
sure.
Yeah, they could all play.
I just mean he's an over-the-top guy. Yeah. So if you can establish that, and they've got to honor that, plus Godwin and Evans, you have now made them pick between 3 poisons at receiver, and then you throw in that you have Gronk or O.J. Howard in a set, and one would think that if you just want to hand the ball right off after you spread them out formationally, you might have some advantageous positions where you can run the football. But we grouped up across the line of scrimmage a bunch in this game against the Saints. I don't know. I don't know what that plan was.
I am curious. It looks like he's obviously learned enough pretty quickly to get the ball to Chris Godwin. So, referring to my other statement, he is throwing the ball to Godwin as well. I think the number one benefactor of Tom Brady coming to Tampa is obviously O.J. Howard. Whatever shell he was living in, whatever pouting and self-loathing he was going through seems to have diminished now that Tom is there. For whatever reason, his sensibilities have been toughened up a little bit, and he's bothered to go out there and try to make the most of his abilities.
Well, and he should draw favorable matchups himself, and he could be a game changer if Godwin's out on a given week. OJ can be something that, without Kuechly in that lineup for Carolina, all right, that changes things.
Keep bringing that up. We should say it over and over to ourselves as affirmation. It's a beautiful thing. When you're down, when you're feeling low, when you're a little concerned about where things are going for FSU, the weather currently, the state of the world, at least Luke Kuechly's not still playing for the Carolina Panthers. This is true. Answer this question in a second on Twitter at Jay Cameron Show from Jeremy. We'll take a break first. The question is, I know it's an odd year, but are you still going to be able to get your interview with Mike Norvell after games for your show this year? I'll tell you in a moment. Was asked a question via Twitter. I don't always get to these, but I was reminded to do so today. Jeremy says, at Jay Cameron Show, I know it's an odd year, but will you still be able to get your interview with Mike Norvell after the games for your show this year? Yeah, my yearly interview, my season-to-season interview with the head coach at Florida State's been going on for some time. Actually, that goes back in the day, starting with Coach Bowden, but then eventually getting to Jimbo Fisher when he's hired as the OC. And really from that time to where we are this year, I have interviewed either a coordinator or head coach after games, and we've run it on Mondays. It does not appear that's going to be the case here. Now, this is nothing against Coach Norvell. It's not that he declined to do it. It has to do with the contract that Florida State is signed, or the broadcasting deal that IMG has with my former place of employment. Now, this gets murky, and you can get into the debates. I get it. If you are paying to run Florida State games, you'd like certain perks that come with that, right? So there's nothing wrong with wanting some of those things, but it would appear that in the midst of this, perhaps Coach Norvell has just decided not to do these weekly interviews with anybody, for that matter, and so that's where we're at. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. It is an odd year because these Zooms are available to anybody, and they do get posted on the Seminoles.com website, which I always thought ultimately would be the reason that we weren't going to continue to be able to get those for in perpetuity, because they're going to want to steer everything to their site anyhow, which as a university is their right to do, and that's why you would have a website like that, is to glean inside information. But I guess what I'm pointing to is myriad reasons why that doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Yeah, it sounded like he wanted to, Norvell, for his part, for the record.
That he didn't want to?
That he did want to.
Yeah, I think he did. And it's not that I won't be able to talk to him and set up interviews with him. It's just not going to be the one you're accustomed to every Monday at an exact same time every week following a game. I think it's going to be in a different set of circumstances. I do cast some blame on both Florida State and iHeart, but probably not the forum.
Well, they want to air it on their sports format over there. That's I can understand that.
So that's where we're at with that. To answer your question, Jeremy, frustrating as it may very well be, that's the deal. Hey, you know what you and I haven't talked about is a double overtime loss last night that extends the series between the Lightning and the Islanders. And the frustration there is, of course, the only two games the Islanders have been able to win or when half our team's out. In particular, one of our very best players,
who has played like half our team.
Yeah. And unfortunately, good for them. They take advantage, albeit it's still arduous for them because they're not good enough. But, in double overtime, they find a way to squeak one out against a punchless Lightning team.
You just don't want to pull a Clippers or a Golden State or a Kevin Durant and the Thunder.
This will all have to do with health. If they're healthy, the Lightning win the series. If they're not, then there's a chance they don't. So we'll see. Yeah. Even with the circumstances, they thoroughly outplayed the Islanders last night and had multiple opportunities to score, including hitting the post more than once, having a goal disallowed, any number of things.
Yeah, there's a stat for this, the puckheads out there, and I said that with a P, expected goals, and Tampa, just outclassed the Islanders, more than doubled their expected output. It's just that sometimes a goalie is really hot, sometimes the post gets in the way, sometimes block shots, but those metrics all favor Tampa last night, and you just hope that, the Islanders don't actually come out and play a good game and a better one than Tampa tomorrow. I am of the mindset, though, that number 21 for Tampa, Braden Point, will be active. We'll see, though. We'll see.
Well, and the problem is, not unlike certain other injuries that we've talked about a lot, whether it's a hamstring or, as we talked about in the case of Chuba Purdy, where we knock on wood that he's going to be okay long-term because collarbones are tricky. But groins are tricky. I mean, if you've got a pulled groin.
And maybe that's what it was. Yeah.
If you got something like that, that's a problem.
Well, the thing, I think it's easy to speculate about that for two reasons. Number one, his first stride doesn't look the same, not as explosive, but he's still so heady as a player that he can make up for that. Number two, he got hit in a game when he came back. So he was out for a game. He comes back, he plays. That hit could only affect the lower body. It ain't an upper body injury. It's not a shoulder or a forearm or a wrist or a hand. And if you look at the principal point of contact of that hit, it is inner leg. So you're dealing with something in the core, I would think. Yeah.
Yeah. So something that is tricky. is what we continue to say. It's not the kind of thing that you say, well, they could just shoot that up. Well, they could, and then you may risk real injury and long-term absence, and or we could try to gut it out the rest of this series and hope to win one of the next two if it goes that long, and then he's ready to play in the finals.
Guys play with broken bones, torn ligaments, all that stuff all the time. In 15, Tampa got snake bit because a very different player in Tyler Johnson. He's still on the roster, but he's terrible now.
Used to be a good player.
Yeah, broken wrist. You had Nikita Kucherov break his forearm. You had Ben Bishop tear his hamstring. They played through all that because they know if they can just win the cup and they've got the strength to carry that thing around for a little bit of a skate, that they can come back 3 months into the next regular season. Who gives a damn?
Right, you have
Go
the cup.
win the
Go
prize.
win the chip. Yeah. Go win the chip. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I mean, I knew what I was saying. I knew you'd get worried. Yeah.
No, I was good on that one.
By the way, as an aside, since we're like kind of dalliances in all of the other sports not named college football, with the big news of the day being the Big Ten coming back, and of course our further discussion of where Florida State's at and what we expect to see, I should note that the World Series will be played entirely at the Texas Rangers' new ballpark. What a convenient gift that is, right? For Major League Baseball to hand that over to the Texas Rangers, who opened their brand new stadium this season, most unfortunately for them. Hey, everybody, come. Oh, wait, nobody can come see our brand new stadium. So Major League Baseball said, that's okay, that's all right. We're going to play in a bubble, meaning the World Series will be played right there at your lovely stadium.
Maybe the NFL can do that for Vegas or LA and put the Super Bowl in those stadiums, because I know Tampa doesn't want it right now. If you can't have the fans in the stands, and Tampa was supposed to have WrestleMania, the NCAA tournament.
Oh, man.
They're supposed to have the Super Bowl this upcoming year.
The windfall was going to be significant, and now they may get nothing.
And you're going to get maybe a Stanley Cup final, because Tampa was favored to go, the distance anyway before COVID. Yeah, all of that money just poof out the window.
Brutal. This will be, as it's played, the first World Series entirely at one site since 1944, when the Cardinals beat the Browns in 6 games at Sportsman's Park in St. Louis, where both teams shared the field.
Of course, it would be called Sportsman's Park.
Yeah,
in St. Louis.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we've got the best fans.
Main Street Park at St. Louis.
So I will say that again. I think on the whole, Major League Baseball has been fairly pleased with the players' response to protocols in this regular season. I actually thought it'd be worse. I think it's been a relatively mild set of circumstances. I understand that the second you have 2 or 3 players, or even a singular player test, and they end up canceling games for days on end, and then you end up having to make up the games with doubleheaders and weird scenarios where you play 7 games in 5 days. But I always thought that was going to be the case if they didn't play in a bubble, and they haven't. And I thought at some point we might end up shutting down the season because you had 3 or 4 teams shut down at the same time. And if that happened, you begin to affect the integrity of the sport, who plays when and how many times and all that good stuff. They really haven't had that. It's been a team here or there. Those games are made up later on. It hasn't been this mass exodus of competition.
As long as there's not a COVID-20, I saw today that the CDC expects a vaccine to be rolled out by second quarter, third quarter of 2021, with an eye towards returning to quote-unquote normal life or social practices by the end of next year.
That was in mass, yes.
If we can get to that point where we can safely talk about this without jinxing it, there's a lot of people who are going to write some books, but I can tell you that when Major League Baseball was going through those critical 48 to 72 hours about what shoe was going to drop next, right? We were so worried here because it's trickle down. That's the first major sport in America to say, yes, let's go ahead. And you're looking at similar travel practices for college football, for the NFL, and you're just wondering. Oh,
you're still holding your breath with college football. I know the news is big today about the Big Ten returning, but I mean, we're still holding our breath here. We'll see.
You're not out of it yet by any stretch, but I do believe that if you can get to about this time next week and you've gotten out of that range of time for Labor Day passing.
Correct.
In terms of incubation periods on campuses. It's not like there are 0 cases. Florida State's had its number of cases throughout the Southeast. Any number of campuses that had a 3-day weekend, you got problems. And if you saw the videos on social media, I'm sure you did, from this past weekend in Tallahassee of the congregation going on, those numbers are going to skyrocket, and the median age in all these counties is going to be low. But if you can get away from Labor Day without major incidents and major problems, then the likelihood of college football season finishing goes through the roof compared to where it is right now or where it was 2 weeks ago.
So I did go sit in the stands on the 50, first row, with my dad, with my oldest son. I chose to do that because I explained this last week. He had the packages for the 3 games, and the 3 games were Georgia Tech, and then you have North Carolina, and then the last game is Virginia. And so he chose that package. If you're a booster and you're not like at the highest level, you get 3 games, and you could choose that package, or you could choose Jacksonville State, Pitt, and I don't remember what the other one was.
It'd be Clemson.
Clemson, that's correct. Yeah. Which I wouldn't want to be in attendance for. But anyhow, so the point would be, he said, "Hey, son, he's retired. He's largely quarantined even when there's not a pandemic because he's retired. He's at home. And the only time that it's different is if he's traveling the world, but not, just going place to place." So he says to me, and I don't mean it to sound like my dad's got it like that where he can just travel the world, but they plan these trips, for once every 3 years where they go somewhere and do something big. The way we would all want to do if we were retired. Anyhow, they had to forego their trips. He hasn't really gone anywhere. There's no traveling done. He said, "Hey, is it okay if I come down?" "Sure, we'll go." And then, a friend of mine gifted me some tickets that he has with his family that they weren't going to be using down on right there in first row. I thought, what an opportunity to go for a little while and see how the staff interacts with the players. So we did all of that. Well, why do I bring that up? I got to see firsthand the revelry around the stadium and everything as we were going to park and kind of walk into the stadium to see what the procedures were going to be. I was very curious. And then what was it going to be like in the stadium? And, I got to say, very little concern amongst those in the stands, certainly, and amongst those partying before the game. If you traversed the surrounding areas, the kids don't care about your health, man. The kids aren't worried about you. Or me, or anybody over the age of 22. They're not. The party in and around the area of the stadium was full bore, and I didn't see nary a mask. Saw a lot of shirts off, and
I'm sure,
and a lot of cheesy frat boys doing what they do,
scantily clad across both genders,
yep. And which is whatever. But a lot of sharing of the funnels and everything in between. I was like, okay.
It was the full college experience. It wasn't COVID watered down.
It was not. Yeah. It was like, okay, so that's what we're doing out here for game one.
The keg selling business is going strong
here in
town.
Going strong, buddy. Going strong. That and shorts that don't fit and, anything else that applies. I was laughing. There was a massive party taking place at one of the many condos or housing areas there around the stadium that have been built recently. And several, maybe on the 5th or 6th floor, there must have been 50 people out on this deck, just all up on each other, pounding beers.
Just imagine being like a custodian for that building. You have to walk to work in a hazmat suit, especially a custodian who has somebody with special needs. And I'm not trying to play the violin here for anybody. I'm just
that's the reality. Of course,
it's the reality of the things that you got to think about if you work over that way.
Yeah, it was disappointing. It was something to behold.
But if you can get to a couple weeks from now and campuses aren't completely shut down from having in-person instruction and or they're just not completely shut down for whatever purpose, could be a temporary purpose, then I think you would have gotten past the initial surge. And if most kids are going home for Thanksgiving week and not returning to campus, now you've got past another wave, which creates the opening for basketball to be played.
Well, and there is news on that front. To be had probably early next week. We're going to have a much better handle on what it's going to look like, what the season's going to look like. They're going to play college basketball, folks, but how they're going to play it, where they're going to play it, when they're going to play it. Are there going to be bubbles and tournaments and things of that ilk? That's all coming down the pike. We referenced a story just a week ago, and Seth Davis wrote that story, and it was a good story. It was interesting. He had a lot of behind-the-scenes chatter about what the conferences were thinking and what the ideas were, when to start. So you'll know more on that next week. And then the complicated situation with the Pac-12, because you just alluded to it, and we'll talk more about this next hour along with the Big Ten's announcement. But I think it is pretty convoluted in the Pac-12 because if you're gonna fight to come back, if you're gonna join the Big Ten, who is now coming back on October the 24th, I believe is what they said.
That's correct.
Yeah, if the Pac-12 wants to do the same, Well, they're on standby because of the wildfires out there and the air quality being horrific. You got baseball teams out there saying that we ought not have to play in this. And, oh, by the way, for those of us playing in doubleheaders, by the time we got to game 2, we couldn't breathe. You can't practice football if you can't breathe. And you can't go and, go play football games if you can't breathe. Now, who knows how long they need a rain. We're hoping for it, obviously, but this further complicates any decision the Pac-12 is going to make. And we don't even know that they're going to make the decision to come back. But if they do, they've got a further delay, I think.
But one hurdle's out of the way that the governor from California said, hey, man, I never said that the Pac-12 couldn't play football. That's you looking at things and seeing things that I didn't say. So that's a big hurdle, because remember, in the beginning of this, for the ACC, the SEC, the governors were going to voice their opinions, and they were going to be big players along with university presidents as to how the landscape shapes. It's just they're on a clock that's set months behind where we were.
Yeah, testing regimen was the big thing for the Pac-12. They hyper-focused on that along with citing the certain doctors that we've alluded to before. But their thing was they had to know rapid testing was available for every team in the Pac-12. They had to know that, hey, listen, public health officials are not putting student athletes above everybody else. Is this available for all of our campuses? If that's true, then, yeah, we can see a way forward and we can play. And they did cite that specifically. So we'll see. That does appear to be more readily available for all universities around the country as this goes on.
Yeah, the breakthroughs recently of saliva tests and maybe
huge.
Feedback within an hour. Yeah, if that continues to roll out and it can be proven that it's reliable and you can mass distribute that, not just for the sake of playing football, then we've got ourselves a chance for a lot of sports being rolled back out, even the pro leagues in the near future for their next season.
If you're looking at me right now on YouTube, you probably know, here you go, this is what's coming. Do you know the phone number? Look at that. We got a heads up on everybody. 523-3776. Fire away. Our friends at Which Superior Sandwiches. Tasty, tasty. Going to give it away right now. It's your chance to win a Wicked, as we do on Wednesdays. Caller number 2, 523-3776. Freebies here. 3 meats, 5 cheeses of goodness.
That's right. Don't use it on the Wednesday because you get 2 Wickeds. You get 2 Wickeds here.
You've won
this
2
glossy
7-inch Wickeds.
Wednesdays is when you can save the money anyway. So go get the Wicked on a Wednesday and pay out of pocket. But then use these for any other day of the week to get max savings.
Caller 2, 523-3776. Fire it up. Good luck with that. And I hope you win. Final hour forthcoming. Stay with. hour of the Jeff Cameron Show, at least for today. Thanks for tuning to it. I'm Jeff. That is Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you're going to listen live via the streaming free always. Don't miss anything, but if you do, go back, get caught up at your leisure. We understand you're busy. Crazy day today. Weather awful, all that good stuff. A lot of kids had to come home early. Safe out there. But when you get a chance to listen, it's on Apple Podcast as soon as the show ends. Hello, YouTubers. You can email the program if you like, jcs@979espnradio.com. On Twitter, it's @jcameron.show. Got to tell you, we're going to get into some FSU football here in a second, in particular about what Mike Norvell had to say about the quarterback position and about the offensive line. There are things to talk about regarding decisions that have to be made. Now, this is a bye week, obviously, so we won't really know until we get into the meat of it next week, but I think they have a serious decision to make at quarterback. We can kick around the best possibilities and the best opportunities in terms of timing for that change that I think should be made. But we're going to play that audio for you in the second segment. So in the interim, I just want to say this. If you missed the 3 o'clock hour, you missed our good friend, the head golf coach at Florida State University, Trey Jones, who's got the good fortune of being there at Wingfoot in New York for the U.S. Open, an historical place that, my goodness gracious, has been host to a lot of amazing moments in golf history, going all the way back to 1974. And it's an old design course. There are the rough is going to be huge and all of that, but I've been getting during the breaks little video clips from Trey of them walking the course, and man, if you like to see the winning score at even par or over, you will, guaranteed. The winning score is highly unlikely to be under par. So lost in all of this, all of our talk about how amazing the NBA playoffs have been, that shot block last night, the collapse of the Clippers, which is an historic collapse with all that we assumed there, Major League Baseball, college football, the Big Ten announcing that they're coming back to play football in October, and it's almost hilarious to think about the quote-unquote decision that would not be revisited under any circumstance, was the actual quote, if you recall, at the time they made the decision. But alas, it has been revisited, and, a season will be salvaged, not shockingly.
One thing we should learn as college football fans is when we went from the BCS to the playoff, and remember, for almost decades, it was there'll never be a playoff in college football. Ever.
Yeah.
We learned that the money will dictate in no uncertain terms. And so we should never be surprised by anything that ever happens. COVID or not, pandemic or not, if there is money to be made, these institutions have to go make it, and they have to effort to go make it, and never take them at their word when they say money's not an object.
Or not the reason.
Yeah,
it is always the reason. I again, though, will say this, above and beyond that. When they went and looked at and wanted to prepare themselves to look at any and all options, you remember Nebraska said this, right? And a lot of member institutions of the Big Ten, Ohio State said, well, we're vetting our options. A lot of people were very upset about the decision. And the reason they were was there was a conflict amongst the experts. That's really what this stemmed from. You had doctors who said it's not any more dangerous for those that play football than those that are just amongst the general student body to return to campus. It's not any more dangerous for those that are there collectively but also participating in football because of the medical protocols that are in place. Once that happened, and that's conflicted with those medical experts from the Pac-12 and the Big Ten saying, we think there is a greater risk because of the physical exertion and the extent to which we're monitoring myocarditis. So, okay, I got it. I'm not a world's foremost expert. I haven't put in the time to become an expert epidemiologist. I defer and read what I can from the experts. And I thought, well, this is part of the larger issue, right? It's a complicated issue. It seems to differ with depending on who it is you're talking about. So I was fine. The decision was the decision. I just thought, why so early? Why so early, if you recall? That's really what we came back to was I get that you have to vet this stuff, but why so early?
Right, and why speak definitively? You never have to, especially in a situation like this. It's a freebie.
The information's changing all the time.
From a PR standpoint, it's a freebie to say, we don't know. It's okay. Sometimes you can't say, I don't know. And it's grounds to be fired. It's grounds to be replaced.
Yeah. If you didn't know, you should have. You're gone.
Right. In this case, you're most assuredly allowed to say, we're not sure. And Penn State's athletic director today took a victory lap saying, well, we were always going to come back as soon as safely as possible. Stop it. Stop it. You can't do that.
No, you don't get to do that.
No. The play at this point would be, listen, new information. It's the dude. New bleep has come to light, man.
Yeah, right.
And so we're going to take the new information we have and use that towards kicking the season off the end next month. Instead of saying, well, we were always good. Stop that. Enough.
The quote from Warren, and he's been under a lot of heat, obviously. I don't know that he survives this, was that 8 days after they made the decision, and he continued to get blowback from his member institutions, players, coaches, parents, you name it. He said, listen, the decision was thorough. It was deliberate. It was based on feedback, guidance, and advice from the world's best medical experts. And then he went on to say they would not revisit this. So today you look like an ass. Look, I get it. I mean, sometimes we are given information that changes what we think about an issue. And you're an ass if you don't use that information also, right? I mean, if you're told something has changed, or you find out more information on a subject, it's a good idea to revisit what it was you were debating and talking about.
Right, but here's the hard part. It's the ass spectrum, because there's two goalposts and both are ass, right? But you got to stay in between.
Got to stay in between, baby.
And just because experts can disagree doesn't give you license to undo everything about what's close to a consensus. So you can't say, well, I've got one doctor over here that says the exact opposite of the other 15, so therefore I can be an ass. No. Nor can you say what Kevin Warren has said, which is we're not going to revisit this, which why?
Why would you not revisit it?
Don't be an ass on the other goalpost. Just try and steer clear and stay down the middle and understand that listening to the experts means listening to debated ideas and tested ideas, for that is science, isn't it?
But also understand exactly that, Tom, that it's one of the things that's been fascinating about this. People say, well, how come this information changed? Why did they change their mind on this? Why originally did they say this and that? Because we're dealing with something brand new. They've never dealt with it before. They're now studying this on a daily basis and learning more things about it. What do you mean? That's how it works. You figure something out over time. Trial and error. You realize, oh, we were wrong about that. We were right about this. Oh, I didn't think that was possible. Turns out it is. We better present our new information, man.
I think Commissioner Warren was like Jason Tatum. He thinks he's going to cram on this thing.
Well, it's a
and the rest of college
effort.
football is going to fall in line, and all of this is just going to be, we're going to lead the way. We are going to be the image of safety and all that is right with the world.
They thought it would be a cave from everybody else.
And then the rest of the events are, bam, getting his hand in the way at the last possible moment.
I'll risk breaking my wrist to do this.
And now you're on your tailbone. Sitting on the floor, just looking up, not even complaining about a bad call.
Stunned.
You just got beat.
It's a hell of a play, by the way. That was an amazing ending.
Tatum holding with 10. Tatum on the NBA logo with 8. Makes his way to the three-point line. Down 2. Drives. Blocked at the rim by Adebayo. 3 seconds to go. And a late foul. Bam Adebayo may have just won Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals for the Miami Heat.
And should drop his pants accordingly. Is how the rest of that call would have gone if that were me.
I can't wait till you get hired for one of those gigs. You're going to be the guy.
Let's talk Florida State football. We'll do so next. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Here from practice, you'll hear from Coach Norvell in a second. This brought to you by Bud Light. Text football 20 to 31996 for a chance to win a Bud Light at-home viewing prize this football season. 25 winners will be chosen. Text football 20 to 31996. You got to be 21 years of age or older in order to enter. A message from local Anheuser-Busch wholesaler Tri-Eagle Sales. Please drink responsibly.
Should be worth noting, too, that if you don't feel like getting the texts, you can go to espntallahassee.com. It's right there in the front page. You'll see a big TV with a guy in a Bud Light jersey, and then you click that, and you go right to the contest.
Oh, that's
entry.
easy. Clickety-do. Make it happen. All right. That's what I'm talking about. So it is. Mike Norvell talked about the quarterbacks. He also talked about his offensive line. Talked about a lot of things. I think it's interesting audio. We've played some of it earlier in the 3 o'clock hour. Because I think you can get insight here. Not always. A lot of times it's coach speak. A lot of times coaches are saying things to send messages to players through the press. They'll talk them up after a bad game and really not cop to any of the problems because they want to somehow infuse some confidence in the player. Other times they'll be critical of a player who they think they can get more out of. And that's fine, but a lot of times it is just fairly obvious what they're doing. In this case, again, I appreciate the candor. I think he's given you some insight here as to that position, the quarterback position. It's open for business. Here's Mike Norvell.
You know, I thought there were some really bright moments for both of them. There were some plays that they both like to have back, but. You know, that's the great thing about playing the quarterback spot is it's really all-encompassing. And, you know, I thought James made some great throws, sometimes, you know, under pressure, sometimes in a clean pocket. You know, we missed a couple opportunities, you know, left some plays out there where, you know, guys got to help him out in those situations. I thought that, you know, his eyes, for the most part, were right. Now, he made a couple checks within the game that put us in good situations. You know, and then he had a couple plays that, you know, he can't have. And so that's where, you know, the growth for him, I really like the things that I do see from him. I thought Jordan came in and, you know, was able to provide a spark in a couple different aspects. But, you know, he missed a good amount of time there in camp and just trying to get him back into rhythm with what he's doing in all aspects. But you're excited about, you know, what he brings. And, you know, I'll tell you, you know, Tate, you know, he's had a couple really good weeks of work, and you know, excited about you know, that group of where we are, and you know, excited that I think, you know, Chubba's going to be back you know, here soon, and you know, that's coming along really well as you know, as well. So you know, looking forward to that group's development. I think every guy that's playing the quarterback position in this offense has the potential to be able to execute, and you'll play at a high level, and the best guy will play. And you know, going through fall camp where we are, and I'm excited about the development I've seen from all of them. Obviously, with Chubba missing some time, you know, he's going to have to get those real life reps in practice, and you know, continue to get caught up with the speed of the game. But you know, I'm excited about his potential, and you know, also the potential of the three other guys in the room.
Interesting, right? Chubba's name comes up not once but twice. He's mentioned twice at the end. Excited about his potential and the other three guys. Okay. A couple things. I don't want to read too much into it, but it's fairly obvious the quarterback position, as he would say, is not on lockdown. It's wide open. It's all men on deck is what this is. That's what that sounds like to me. I'm translating here. If you had a guy you believed in, if you had a guy that you thought was the person you were going to ride and die with throughout the season, you wouldn't entertain the idea of mentioning the other quarterbacks or talking about their potential or, quote, unquote, the best man will play. You would have already thought you had decided that and that this was your guy, and you would then go about the process of defending him. And he didn't do that. He talked about some of the things James did well and some things that he didn't do well, and the progress of the other quarterbacks, and the time that's been missed by Jordan Travis, the time that Chubba Purdy's going to have to make up, having lost due to injury, the couple of good weeks of practice that Tate's had recently. That all got mentioned. Well, it gets mentioned for a reason, because he knows they're not good enough there. They're not good enough at a lot of places, but they're not good enough at the most important place, and that's quarterback. So, you know, now you get into the debate here. We can't know how quickly they can get to Chubba Purdy. It sounds like they want to expedite that situation, right? But an injury is an injury, and collarbones are tricky. Then he had an infection. That's tricky too. I don't know if enough time has elapsed to get to a place where you can start him against Miami. And if you could, would you want to? Would you want that to be his first game? A rivalry game against a very good defense on the road. I get it. Nominal amount of fans, but still, road game against an arch rival and a really good defense, one that you probably won't block all that well, and you're coming off an injury, to your collarbone. I don't know that you would want to make that decision. Now, here's something a coach can't say, and he wouldn't say it, but I'm sure they all think it, and it's not just unique to our situation. If you've got a guy that you'd really like to begin to infuse into your offense, and you're not playing for anything, you almost have a get-out-of-jail-free card this year. Most folks, if they're logical, if they're right-minded, if they're fair-minded, understand they didn't get spring. They missed out on a full 15 practices and scrimmages, opportunities, a spring game where you could have put somebody under the lights. They didn't get to do that stuff. And they also didn't get 7-on-7 in the summer where players are able to work with each other in the passing game and get to know each other. And coaches, while not really allowed to supervise those get-togethers on your own in the summer, can ask quarterbacks questions about the offense, about how the reps are going. And if they get the wrong answer, they can take that information and utilize it the way they will, whether they will spend more time with the quarterback about the concepts or whether or not they maybe need to move on. I'm not getting the right answers here. You go all the way back to Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo Fisher did not get the right answers from the quarterback room from those that were returning, and thus Christian Ponder became his guy because he got some right answers about his offense. They were ready then to move on. In his mind, you were playing the wrong guys. Mike Norvell, I'm sure, did not get the right answers on the sideline Saturday when he asked the questions, and he certainly didn't get a consistent product. So he's now got to gauge that quarterback room and maybe expedite the situation, but you got to do so carefully. If it's a lost season and you want to ease a guy in and understand that he's going to suffer some setbacks and some losses, but you just can't lose him mentally, wouldn't you wait and let James go take that ass kicking at Miami? I mean, one more time for good measure. Just go ahead. Get the band back together and let James lose that game. Let James take a beating. And then you start Chubba Purdy, if you're so inclined to do so, against Jacksonville State, a guy you think, certainly can handle that. And if you don't think that, then I don't know, maybe you start James again or Tate or whomever, and then you ease him into the game at some point, second quarter. I don't know. I'd just start him. If you can't handle a Jacksonville State start, we got problems. But the point would be you could do that. You could wear another beating because you can't block him. And it sounds cruel, but hey, man, I got to think about the long-term health of my team. I'm rolling James back out there against Miami. He's played in that game before, and that might be one last beating.
So the way you're describing that, though, I think it wouldn't even register on the quarterback debate chart. You're conceding that we're losing to Miami.
I am. I'm conceding that we can't block them, yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So there's no chance we beat Miami.
I don't know about no chance. I mean, it's Miami. It's not Clemson. But I would say that I think it's a pretty slim chance you're going to beat Miami. I think it's unlikely, certainly, highly unlikely, given that what I saw from Miami against UAB, and UAB has a good defense and is well coached, they look competent. They look like they have a plan. Lashley seems to know what to do with King. I have real problems there. I hate's wrong. I don't like the play of our defensive ends. Miami will likely get the edge, and good luck on that. You know where I'm going with this.
Sure,
so it's unlikely that you're going to get enough stops. Moreover, I don't think you can block them. So,
the argument for James is just it sounds as though you've already resigned yourself that we're going to lose to Miami again this year. So I'm just making that clear when you're offering counsel, so to speak, on what quarterback to choose. You're doing so with the understanding that screw it, you wouldn't beat him anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am. I'm going to let James go out there. Hope like hell maybe he gets hot. He's got some experience. He's had games where he's done that before, and maybe he shocks the hell out of you and you win a game that you shouldn't. I'm also doing it because I'm protecting the kid who I know is my long-term answer. And I also know perceptions matter. And so if you roll your boy out there for game number one in a rivalry game where emotions run hot and he goes out there and falls flat on his face. The speed of the game is too much for him, and he throws 4 picks, and you're just mortified by what you're watching. Well, now you got the perception that the kid you brought in and the guy you ran off are on separate planes.
Yeah, I worry about a couple of things here because you're playing with fire for a couple of reasons. If Purdy is an answer sooner than later, meaning Jacksonville State, a couple of weeks from now. Number one, you got to know that thing's healed up all the way.
Sure.
Because you said it earlier, collarbones can be dicey and they can be tricky. Because I don't think playing quarterback in this offense is going to lead to a lack of contact. Whether or not you welcome it by calling him in the run game, or you're trying not to welcome it, but the offensive line sucks, you're going to get hit.
Yeah.
So that's got to be fully healthy, number one. Number two, James got ruined by playing too early. And so you've got to know, because the initial feedback that Mike Norvell was giving us is that Chubba Purdy is not smart enough yet to handle the offense.
Hold on. We made that assumption.
I'm saying yet.
Yeah. You and I made that assumption. I think I don't know that he's saying that. He might be.
He's saying that the playbook, whatever it is, he's not up to speed.
He wasn't up to speed.
Okay.
Right.
So you're either going to have to change your offense and completely dumb it down because he's not ready yet to do that.
Well, you have to do that with a true freshman quarterback anyhow. Any true freshman quarterback. So I'd dumb it down and roll him out there. Yeah. Listen, Georgia Tech told Jeff Sims you're going to play Florida State's defensive line on the road for your first ever start. But you know what? We were so bad at quarterback last year, we can't bear to look at it again. Guy's still on the roster. The kid that played quarterback for them a year ago, he started all those games. Yeah, he's still on the roster, and they said, we're going to start Jeff Sims. You don't give us much of a chance. It can be done.
Right.
You got to know the kid's personality. You got to know his psyche. You got to know how tough he is.
Exactly. And you got to know how physically he can hold up in that circumstance.
That is correct. That is correct. Oh, there's a lot to gauge here, a lot to monitor. So maybe you wait against Jacksonville State as opposed to Miami, and you don't get him throttled. Now, a week later, you're going to play Notre Dame, and he's going to lose. But he will have had game action, and you can get a sense for what he can and can't do.
My question would be very fundamental, though, before we even get to those points. Are we reasonable to expect that the collarbone plus the infection are going to be healed up in time for Jacksonville State?
I don't know. They're not going to tell us that information. I do not know. I'm speculating. I'm speculating based on what I just heard the head coach say. It sounds to me like
that he's hopeful. He's pining for a day in which Chubba gets cleared. There's no doubt.
It's pretty inherent in some of the things he was saying there. He's thinking like I'm thinking, like sooner the better.
It's such a disaster, though. I mean, really, you're turning all of your hopes for the program already in year one to a true... you better start messaging that thing properly the moment that flips. Because remember how Jimbo messaged it when James took over. He was talking about almost as though James was a supernatural talent.
Jimbo had one foot out the door, Tom.
I know, but if you're
there are no repercussions for what he had to say.
A lot of coaches make a lot of dumb decisions when it comes to messaging, though. At the moment that you make this transition, you better temper all expectations and tell the people, guys, we're waving the white flag to a degree. Now, we might get return on this move earlier than we expected, but please understand that we are fully under construction here by making this move.
I think he said enough things already, both in the offseason and after game one, that tells me that anyhow. I mean, he did not make the same mistake that Coach Taggart made when Coach Taggart said, emphatically, I might add, this is not an overhaul. This is not a long, drawn-out turnaround. This is not, it's basically overnight. This is going to be a real quick.
It's a retool, not a rebuild.
Yeah, it's a retool, not a rebuild. Impressed with the guys in in that locker room. I thought I was going to inherit, as he said, a bunch of turds, which I would not have said, but he said that.
That was something.
But then he said that, and he told everybody on the route, man, out there glad handing, as we all have to, all our coaches do, to get money. Hey, this is a good team. Hell, he pinned. What's the name of the
Players Tribune?
The Players Tribune.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, he thought they were going to win a lot of games and they were score a lot of points and it was going to happen now. Well, you just raised expectations through the roof. But the idea is to undersell and overdeliver. He did the opposite. He oversold and underdelivered, and that gets you run quick. So Mike hasn't done that. He's like, I like the kids that are working hard and they're buying in and they're putting in the time and we think we can get to where we're going, but he's not talking about winning games immediately and lighting up the scoreboard or any of that stuff. And I think you hear the way he's talking now that he really realizes this is you got to stick with it. It's not going to happen overnight. It's a process. Well, look, man, I get it. You just saw, much to your dismay, an awful lot of revert. if you will, a lot of falling back into bad habits from guys that have been beat up mentally and physically. And he must have been absolutely appalled. But he knows what he's up against now. And I'm in. Listen, you're playing for next year and the year after. You're not playing for this year. I understand it's going to make it tough in recruiting, so you're right. How you verbalize this, how you sell it week to week, and how you sell it to recruits is going to matter. It's going to be another test, another obstacle that staff, and I don't know if they can do it.
Right.
I don't know if they can.
Because they still can't get kids on campus to visit.
That's not their fault either, but yeah.
But all you have is game tape and press conferences at this
it's
point
tough.
with the random phone call here.
It's tough. Yeah. No, you're going to have to find a way through messaging. You're right. But it can be done. It can be done. I know we're not Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech just beat us, but Jeff Collins last year didn't mince words about the overhaul, the time it was going to take, the effort they were going to put in to change the locker room, to change the offense, to change the defense, to do all of that. But to stick with me, stay the course. This is not an easy thing to do, but we'll get there together. And he's already got himself a couple of signature wins now. He got the win against Miami late last year. He gets a win against Florida State. They're not going to win a lot of games. But you're seeing the signs of a cultural shift, right, of a real buy-in and belief. That team played hard all day Saturday. Even down 10-0, we let him hang, and that's the worst thing you can do against an underdog who's down in the dumps, who's not real sure about themselves. Let him hang around, and boy, does this team make a habit out of letting people hang around.
Which is what, if there's fatigue or anger in the underlying parts of my voice, it's because we've got to talk about this nonsense for 2 weeks. It could be that James throws a ball to Tamorian and he catches it, and James still plays a very imperfect game, but we win by 4 points, and you say, all right, listen, maybe we can go down there, surprise some people in Miami. Instead of, we've got to circle back to square one.
It
already.
Hurts. It hurts, man.
Already.
No, we do it every year, man. It hurts.
Every
year.
At
some point, we won't. Really rapid fire. I know we're going to go to break, but I did promise hearing about the offensive line. Let me just play this real quick.
I thought the guys as a whole, they're coming. And I'll say that there were some mistakes, some things that showed up. I thought early, coming out, I thought they did a nice job for those first few series, consistently, in their pass protection and what they were doing. We were able to create some run lanes. I thought that was really evident throughout the course of the game. I thought that. We did some nice things, but we would have whether it was a mistake here or a mistake there, everything has to work together. And I thought that's the biggest thing we're going to have to continue to work on is this consistency. It was unfortunate throughout the game we ended up playing 5 different lineups with those guys. That was we had guys that had to move out to positions where they hadn't repped. We went into the game and Robert Scott and Thomas Schrader were unavailable for the game, and those were 2 guys that we were have been counting on within the depth of that top group, and so it forced guys to have to move around to different positions that maybe they haven't got as many reps on, at, and I mean it's just some of those things showed up, but I think that. You see the potential, and it kind of goes back to what we can do, but what will we do, and we just have to continue to work. Those guys, I'm excited about the group, I really am, and the response and guys having to fill in different spots. We've got to clean up some of the communication issues, but I think all in all, there's going to be great potential for growth in that unit.
Practice updates on the Jeff Cameron Show are brought to you by Lisa's Paint and Body Shop. Choose a body shop that's working for you and looking out for you as well. Someone you can trust. Lisa's Paint and Body, located at 2820 Mahan Drive. Real quick on that, listen, nobody's going to boo-hoo, but just keep it in mind. It's not an excuse. It's a legitimate thing to note. It's a fact as to what happened. 2 guys that they were expecting to be part of the rotation who turned out to be necessary for this game, as almost every single player not named Bavion Johnson went down, and not almost, every single player on that line not named Bavion Johnson went down, were unavailable. Now, I'm going to assume, I don't know, I'm going to assume that's COVID. Who knows? It could be something else, but bottom line is they were suddenly not available. Well, man, can anything else happen? Well, he's got to feel, and he shouldn't, and I hope he doesn't, but he has got to feel snake bit right about now.
Yeah,
are you kidding me?
Those 2 are supposed to be available for Miami.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Well, that's just a tough-ass go, man.
But
year 1, get no spring. You end up with a nightmare scenario. You can't get out and recruit. You can't do the things you want to do to create momentum. And then all this other stuff happens. Jesus.
Well, here's the thing where I do feel a little bit hopeful. Maurice Smith is a bright spot in the game.
Yeah, he is.
I don't know if it was an intentional experiment to move Bavion to center in the first half, or if there was some kind of a bumper bruise that came up before his bigger injury a little bit later in the game that he returned from. But the offense obviously looks much different with 53 snapping the ball over 51.
Without question.
If you can get that kind of hope by the end of the year from Scott and Schrader, now you're working.
Okay, now you can get to adequate.
And maybe in that sense, he's not overstating how he believes in this group.
I think that's accurate, Tom.
Atkins is working his ass off.
Yes, and it just takes time with that group. That's a tough group. You got so many young guys. They're going to get overwhelmed at times, like Clemson, like Notre Dame, probably Miami. But you got to have guys out there getting reps. This is about getting reps now for guys that you're going to ride with starting next year and the year after. You got to do that. I'm all in on the youth movement. You're going to lose games. It's a nothing year.
Yeah.
It's a nothing year.
You don't lose eligibility for anybody.
Yeah, I mean, so just let's go. It's a nothing year. In some ways, I know it's not perceived this way, but in some ways, really, you got nothing to lose by going all in on youth. Now, you got to be careful with the locker room and all that. And there are some good guys that are upperclassmen that you're not going to toy with. But, man, there are a lot of other guys that maybe are too far gone. Like this DJ Matthews thing is a good thing. Have a good one, man. Don't let the door hit you in the ass.
Yes, Norvell smiled during the press conference yesterday.
Yeah.
He couldn't hold back from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah, he is gone. Yeah, have a good freaking one. Bolden, that's interesting.
That's tough. It's a position change. He's not climbing up the depth chart, and he's like, you know what? I can understand.
Oh, no, I'm not blaming the kid. I just hate that.
It's the injury that sucks. It was the game against whoever it was a couple years ago, Stanford, whoever. And he had a pick early in that game. It was week 2 off the Virginia Tech loss. And he looked good. He was flying all over the field, and then he comes down lame on the one leg. And it's just, man, they loved him too. That staff did. They were like, this guy.
Yeah, no, they love that guy. He's as athletic as they get. He's fast as hell. He's going to be a good player for somebody else, apparently. Unfortunately. That one hurts. DJ, have a good day. Chef Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. it up on the Jeff Cameron Show. We'll do so hoping and obviously thinking about all of you guys with the water rising in Pensacola. If you're a listener from over there, or really any of those regions around there, our thoughts are with you. And tough weather here right now. We'll have to continue to monitor as we have throughout the day. But, man, I've seen during the break, I was just looking at some of the footage from Alabama and from Pensacola and surrounding areas. And no bueno, man. So everybody stay safe, obviously. And we're thinking about you if you're in those areas. As far as here goes, I know Tom was telling me earlier, tornado watch all the way through to 6 o'clock this evening here.
It's maybe 6 Central, so yeah, 7, I guess. A little bit longer yet. But again, that's, when I looked at that was from the NWS Tallahassee feed from a while back, so that might not be the most up-to-date and
once we start the show, we're not as, locked into that stuff. So, I can look outside and see when we get up during commercial breaks and see that it's ugly. But, I don't know how it is in neighborhoods throughout town. We do have what are we airing tonight after we get off the air? We got Braves? What do we got?
Yeah, weather permitting and all that stuff, right? But the Braves, yes. Then tomorrow night, we have the debut of the real Thursday night football. Like they had the season opener. It was a little bit different. That'll be 8 o'clock tomorrow night for the NFL matchup between the Browns and the Bengals. We'll have high school, weather permitting. Everything is okay on Friday. And then we get into our weekend stuff as usual now. Football season in full flight.
Something to note here before I get into probables, as far as that Thursday night football game goes, you see that on the ledger and you go, Browns, Bengals. I mean, for the battle for Ohio, I get it for the people in that region. It's real exciting, I guess. It's a rivalry, but
it's all they got.
It's really not anything I ever think about. But a little bit different this time around because it is Joe Burrow who played pretty well in his first game, especially given the lack of practices that they had. And then you consider they were in it right there to the end. We'll see what kind of player he turns out to be. But it's becoming more and more of a stressful situation in Cleveland where they went out and got everybody and brought all those folks in, and we questioned whether or not that would work or not. But when you go back and watch the 15-minute mashup of that game last week with Cleveland getting absolutely housed by Baltimore, one of the things that stood out to me, and I saw some of this in real time whenever the Red Zone channel would flip over to it, was that, and this happened at the end of last year too, Baker Mayfield, this may not work, man. This may be an unmitigated disaster. He's getting worse. He was better his rookie season. He's getting worse. He's having more balls batted down, and he led the league last year in that. And he is now just straight up inaccurate. And he's got guys running free that he overthrows by 20 and 30 yards. I mean, there were some throws in this game last week that he missed. He missed Odell Beckham Jr. by 20 yards on a touchdown. I mean, and you can see the disgust on his face. There's a 15-yard, basically it's a smash route. He throws the ball basically into the stands, and it's a clean pocket. So we're talking about a crisis of confidence and growing inaccuracy.
Well, that was always the risk when they acquired all these personalities, was the combustible nature of all of them. Baker Mayfield can be Baker Mayfield's own worst enemy. Just with how hot he runs, what happens when you internalize that and you're not succeeding?
Yeah.
Because at Oklahoma, all he had is success. But that type of outwardly, he will taunt you when he has a chance to taunt you.
Yeah, no.
What happens when he taunts himself because he sucks? Does he go into a shell and does it make him worse?
He's growing increasingly frustrated. Now, imagine if they lose to Cincinnati. I mean, that first-year kid, second game, Cincinnati's not any good. If they beat Cleveland and they go to 0-2, and those are divisional games.
Right. You're talking about one franchise passing the other from an optics standpoint.
Well, in a game, in like the second game of the year, you've passed over. And moreover, the realist Browns fan, the one that is really dialed in, paying attention and cares, might be inclined at that point to say, it's a total rebuild. Here we go.
Or let's go for Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, we're starting over.
Yeah.
We're starting freaking over. Can you believe it? Grand opening, grand closing. We're starting over. And they seem to do that a lot in Cleveland. See Johnny Manziel. I mean, how many times are they going to be like,
can we not draft a 5'9" quarterback,
Can we stop
please?
doing this? Yeah. I mean, goodness gracious. All right, Probables brought to you by Whidden Glass. Whidden Glass, a family-owned and operated business serving Tallahassee and the Big Bend area since 1945. They are Tallahassee's first family in glass replacement, highly respected for their quality of installation, of course, both residential and commercial. Whidden Glass, 222-5781. That's 222-5781. Fire it up.
It's time for, how you say, with the pitching, probables?
I can't think of two people that I like less in baseball. Well, maybe I could, but you know how I feel about Ryan Braun. I also loathe Yadier Molina. And those two got in a little dust-up last night after a 2-1 pitch ends up being a batter's interference. And oddly, I was put in the position to have to say I kind of rather enjoyed Ryan Braun's response because I think he did it on purpose. That's a shot to the arm and the hand. Did you see it?
No.
The Brewers are up 12-2 late in the game. There's a 2-0 pitch. The previous pitches, Yadier Molina said something to the umpire about what he thought was a strike. So the 2-0 pitch is questionable, and the umpire calls it a strike. And because there are no fans there, you can hear Ryan Braun say, no, man. That's not a strike. Just because he has to cry about things and get mad doesn't mean you need to call it a strike. And so Molina's not happy. Well, the next pitch is outside, and Braun goes for it. And, I mean, it's forearm and glove and wrist. Wham! The bases are loaded. Umpire calls catcher's interference. That's another run to make it 13-2, and Braun kind of jogs down to first. As soon as Molina starts to kind of get feeling back in his hand, he walks straight to the dugout. And we've got benches clearing, and I'm like, here we go. Two guys I can't stand. Somebody beat the hell out of the other or something. But I was actually put in a bad position of having to go, good on you, Ryan Braun. It just makes me,
just garbage people, hurting garbage people.
Yeah, there you go. Adam Wainwright's currently on the hill for the Cardinals. That game is played as we speak. Brandon Woodruff going for the Brewers. Maybe there's been a brawl. I haven't checked. There'll be another game tonight between the same two teams. They don't like each other. Things have gotten ugly. They have to play a lot. Same thing, making up games. So there's a chance we get some ugliness, which would be nice. To be determined this evening for the Cardinals. Brent Sutter going for the Brewers tonight. Pirates, they just keep on losing, baby. JT Brubaker, whatever the hell that is, pitching tonight for the Pirates. Luis Castillo goes for the Reds.
JT Brubaker sounds like the name of the host from Shop Till You Drop.
Or a terrible character from a 70s sitcom that takes place in Los Angeles, and he's a detective. Some sort of bad dialogue.
Brubaker.
Yeah.
Get in my office.
There it is. Red Sox, Marlins. Mike Kitchum going for the Red Sox. Trevor Rogers going for the Marlins. Blue Jays, Yankees. Tanner Roark.
Roark, for goodness.
Yeah, he is. Garrett Cole goes for the Yankees. Mets, Phillies. Jacob deGrom, I take it the beer. DeGrom reestablishing himself as the favorite to win a third straight National League Cy Young Award winner after his last start. That race is tight, but he is back dominant again. You guys are not very good right now. 21-27, is that right?
That's correct.
Got beat by the Phillies again last night? Or last night? That was
4-1,
the opener,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Zach Wheeler will go for the Phillies. He's 4-0 with a 2.47. He's pitching. Royals, Tigers, Brady Singer. Tariq Skubal goes for the Tigers. Braves, Orioles, weather permitting. Cole Hamels, Keegan Aiken. Rangers, Astros.
Keegan Aiken?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
It was his first. He's had 2 career starts in the majors so far, and both have been pretty good.
Oh,
you know,
that
like
is the guy. No, there's LeMay, and then there's the other one. I can't think of, but these are the guys you don't want to be paired with in the tournament.
At the tournament, yeah.
Keegan Aiken.
Yeah.
This dude's gonna ask for a ruling 3 times in the front 9.
Well, there's Chad too, whoever that is. Remember, we have that Chad guy that's always in the rotation somewhere.
But you know who might be solid? Chad Bettis. Chad Bettis might be okay.
Chad Bettis is a partier. Chad Bettis is going to have some drinks with you after the round.
Chad Bettis doesn't hit greens in regulation, but he makes a lot of pars.
Yeah, somehow.
Yep.
Freaking, that's just Chad.
That's Bettis.
Yeah. Rangers, Astros, Kyle Gibson, Lance McCullers Jr. We got the Twins and the White Sox tonight. Jake Odorizzi, Lucas Giolito. Cleveland, Chicago. That'd be the Cubs. Aaron Savall goes for the Clevelands. We got John Lester Still out there doing it for the Cubs. D-backs, Angels, Caleb Smith, Dylan Bundy. Giants, Mariners, Drew Smiley. You going to say something about Country Club Kids there, too?
Dylan Bundy just sounds like a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
Like Dylan Bundy's the kid you always hear about at your freshman orientation.
Really smart guy, but he let it all go to hell. Yeah. Leger Newsom going to go for the Mariners. The Mariners have the best names in their rotation. Every day, I love the names. Leger. Giants, Mariners, game 2. That's late tonight. If they can get the games in, because nobody can breathe. Tough times. Really tragic what's going on. All those farmers out there, man. That state of Oregon is bad shape.
Those skies, man, that is harrowing stuff.
Yeah, man. Apocalyptic. It's hard to watch. Good work out of you. Good work, Director Matthew. Be well, everybody. Have a good night. Front Row Knowles. All right. That's coming up next. Looking forward to it. Listen on your way home. I shall be doing the same. Stay safe, everybody.